43 years old, married, father of three, been working my W-2 job at the same place for the last 20 plus years. I've had a goal to kind of get away from my W-2 job, but I've kind of encountered some roadblocks. And to be honest with you, most of them are mental. I'm 43 years old. I should be a little bit further along in this process. And I start to look internally as to why I'm not there. The big thing for me, to just be honest with you, and I'm somewhat embarrassed about it, is that I feel like I lack a lot of self-confidence in what I do. It's hard for me to put myself out there, but I really want to get past that. And I just kind of feel stuck about it.
Welcome to Transform with Jason Drees. Today, I've got an amazing guest with me today. I've got Dan Greggs. He's coming in from Cleveland, Ohio, 43 years old, father of three. He's been in a W-2 job for over 20 years and has had some success the past few years in short-term real estate. And we're having a conversation today. Dan, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Great to connect today.
Likewise.
So tell me a little bit more. So you're in the W-2. I think I put out a post about who wants help about escaping the W-2. Is that what the conversation is about?
That is, but it got to the point where I just realized that I feel like, I'm 43 years old. I should be a little bit further along in this process. And then I start to look internally as to why I'm not there. And the big thing for me, to just be honest with you, and I'm somewhat embarrassed about it, is that I feel like I lack a lot of self-confidence in what I do. For some reason, it's just it's hard for me to put myself out there. Even just doing this call with you right now is difficult for me. But I really want to get past that. I have for an example, I have a conference coming up, for real estate next month. I'm not going to know anybody there. So normally my play is that I'm going to be the guy in the background, just hiding in the back. But I know in my heart that if I wanted to get the most out of this conference, that I need to start networking, meeting people, putting myself out there. But it's extremely hard for me to do. And I just kind of feel stuck about it.
So is that what you'd like some coaching on today?
Yes.
So networking, you said networking is difficult for me. I should network at my conference. You said I lack self-confidence in what I do. What is the opposite of that? What's the opposite of what you just described?
Well, to me, the opposite of being somebody that's more extroverted, outgoing, somebody that, could easily displays their emotions in public and, wants to meet people, which seems to be the opposite of me.
Okay, well, that's pretty normal that when we discover that we have some areas that we want to grow personally, we typically jump to the ideal scenario, which is basically a opposite personality of ourselves, which is not going to happen because that's not you. If you were that way, you would not be authentic.
Okay.
Right? Because you're you, and there's nothing wrong with you. You're more of a strategic thinker, probably good with systems. You're probably a linear thinker, where sometimes people who are extroverted just babble and talk real loud like me.
Right.
So has there ever been a time in your life when you were more outgoing or networked easily?
I knew you were going to ask me this question, and I was thinking about it, and I don't, I want to say no, but if I feel very comfortable around people, or if I feel very, like I know the people, and for some of their family, their friends, I'll put myself out there more.
So basically, if you feel comfortable around people, then you can, and when you say put yourself out there, I'm assuming you can be yourself more easily.
Yeah.
So when you're comfortable, you can be yourself more easily.
Right. Yes.
So who are some people you're comfortable around that you're normally yourself?
I'm around my wife, my kids every day. I'm very comfortable with them. I spend time with my team at work. I am comfortable with them. It's more of the people that, I don't know as well, or maybe people I just meet in passing. It's hard for me to kind of make that connection and open up.
Why do you feel less comfortable around people you don't know?
I don't know. I'm afraid that they're going to judge me. I'm afraid that I'll embarrass myself in front of them. Like I said, it's the self confidence. I'm afraid I'm going to make mistakes, things like that.
Why do you believe that?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I'm afraid to be judged by other people. That's kind of what it comes down to.
Okay. What happens for you to be judged? What specifically has to happen for you to be judged by other people?
For an example, if I was speaking in front of people and I messed up and I made a mistake, everybody would see me and there would be some type of shame and stuff like that. That's kind of what comes to mind.
So if you mess up, that makes you feel judged.
Yeah.
Is that also the same thing? And I may be putting a few words in your mouth here, but it's like, does that also mean something like I have to be perfect?
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have to be perfect in front of your family?
No, no.
Why don't you have to be perfect in front of your family?
Well, they accept me with all my flaws and everything, you know? I guess I feel like when I go to work or if I'm going to like a conference that I'm going to that, I got to put that corporate mask on or that other networking hat on and be kind of precise and perfect. And
Okay.
I guess I'm afraid of not being perfect.
That's a hard standard to live up to, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I've been beating myself up about it for years, and it just eats at me. It really does.
So tell me what has to happen for you to be perfect?
For an example, I had this conference I'm going to. For that to be perfect, I would go there. I would meet um, dozens of people. I would get a lot of contacts, names. I wouldn't embarrass myself. Um, I wouldn't have any awkward conversations, scenarios, things like that.
Okay. Have you ever been perfect before in front of strangers?
So I avoid it. That's what I do. I avoid that situation.
So have you actually ever been perfect in front of strangers?
Um, I, I, I don't think so. No.
Okay. But can you embarrass yourself and make mistakes and have awkward conversations with your wife and family at home?
Yeah. I mean, every day.
Okay.
I see where you're going. Yeah,
So you do have a reference point of where you want to be.
I do.
Do you accept yourself when you're home?
I do.
Do you accept yourself in front of other people?
It doesn't sound like I do.
Yeah. And now this isn't terminal. it's a new understanding.
Yeah.
But if we look at your default behavior around the people you're comfortable with, that's who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very common when we want to grow our business or grow our networking business or our real estate business and build our network. We often think we need to become this amazing networking person that's the highlight of the party and it never messes up and always knows what to say. And so there's that image that your brain that's been conditioned for like the past 4 decades to tell you that's what perfection looks like. Also, you operate, I'm guessing you're probably a high C disc profile. So you operate from a very linear mathematical, detail oriented perfection. That's like your model of the world. So that's and that has serves you well in a lot of areas of your life.
Well, I'm a data analyst, so yeah.
Exactly. Right. So that, and I knew that because that personality style is typically introverted, right? Introverted is not any less better than extroverted. They're just different. Everybody has strengths and everybody has weaknesses. We all have them. Because the people who are good socially probably suck with details. They're probably terrible balancing their budget. They're probably terrible at saving, so there's always an upside. And the funny thing is that, do you actually think everybody is actually walking around trying to judge you?
Oh, I know deep down that ultimately nobody cares.
And let's look at the reason why. The reason nobody cares is that they're already judging themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody's judging themselves.
True.
Like
Yeah.
the fact that you're literally signed up for a mindset coaching call with me. So you're already like in the top 10%. Most people, have that, are always caught up in themselves. It's very easy to go out there to think everybody's thinking about themselves, but everyone else is caught up in themselves too. So it's like you're almost out there afraid to be seen by people who aren't even looking.
Yeah.
Which is a little silly. And I'll tell you that putting yourself out there happens to everybody. It's a part of growth. I see it in myself. I see it in all sorts of clients. I see it in clients like that are Brandon Turner's level, that type of client. Like and I've seen clients go through it and go away and come back years later. The world we live in now, success in this world is really being tied to your own personal brand.
Mm-hmm.
And we also hate to we probably don't like to think about how much of our life is public and being recorded. Right? Social media, like everything we do is recorded now. There's no hiding. Just like that for everybody, which is a little terrifying and intimidating and also funny at the same time. So what if we started to focus on more self-acceptance?
Yeah, I love that. I'd love to be able to love myself more. I would.
So let me help. I'll help you with a repeat after me statement in a second that we can integrate that a little bit. But from a logical perspective, like the antidote for judgment, the antidote for external judgment is self-acceptance. Because if you're accepting yourself fully, it doesn't matter what anyone else says to you.
Yeah.
And it's an area that most people don't put a lot of work on until they're in their 40s, really. Because you didn't need to. But life has given you this path where it's coming up right now. And it's also, and I'd love to make you cured on this call, but it's a practice. It's a new way of being. So we can bring in this logic that basically says, well, there's no difference between me standing in these 4 people in my house or these 4 people in the conference. No difference. So one thing to just remember that when you're at that conference, and so let's just make a mental note. Just make a mental note. Remind myself of this conversation with Jason, that when I walk in that room and I'm going to go start talking to people and I start to feel that shortness of breath, tightness, or whatever that is, I'm just going to automatically take 3 deep breaths and remember that everyone else is probably more worried about themselves than I am. And one thing I do when I'm myself, when I'm most comfortable about my wife and my family, I'm probably a little awkward. I may tell jokes. I make people laugh. I make people smile because that's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And when I hide my awkwardness from the world, I'm hiding myself from the world.
Yeah, that's me.
Me too. I was like, literally, like, I remember my 7th grade yearbook. I went home, I started reading, and everybody said, you're weird. And I was like, wait a second. I'm like, I thought I was cool. They're like, no, you're weird. You're strange. You're weird. You're strange. And I was like, and I literally stopped being myself after that for like 20 years. Because I started to be conditioned that, high school was like, oh, well, high school's tough. And if I want people to like me, you have to fit in.
Yeah.
But what's really contagious is not being comfortable in public or being extroverted or displaying your emotions or being outgoing. What's contagious is self-acceptance and self-love.
Mm-hmm.
That is a frequency of reality that people respect without even knowing it. You can feel it a mile away when you run across somebody who accepts themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe today is the beginning of your journey of self-acceptance unconditionally, because the fact of the matter is that you were not born perfect, nor will you ever be perfect, because there's no such thing as perfect. You are the unique expression of Dan Greggs, and there's only been one Dan Greggs. There's never been another. There'll never be another. There's only one, just one. And that's who you are. You're not missing any body parts from what I can tell. So you're not broken. You're not missing any pieces. And the my boss at Tony Robbins, when I was working at Tony Robbins, used to say that, you know, a leopard doesn't have a problem because it has spots. A leopard is a leopard because it has spots. And the imperfections are actually our perfections, because it's the imperfections that gives us our personality.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you've ever met somebody who doesn't show any imperfections, you can't even connect with them. They're unhuman. Yeah. So try this out loud. Are you okay if I guide you to a belief change?
Of course.
So repeat after me. I take full ownership of my life and everything in it.
I take full ownership of my life and everything in it.
I choose to understand the truth about life.
I choose to understand the truth about life.
Everybody is doing the best they can.
Everyone is doing the best they can.
And while most people are trying to be perfect,
they
don't realize that they already are.
They don't realize that they already are.
Because perfection as a human is being flawed. It's what makes us human. So I'm going to decide right now to allow myself the gift of being perfectly imperfect. I am who I am. There's no sense fighting it any longer. I'm going to embrace and enjoy being me. And I'm also going to explore what it's like to love and accept myself unconditionally. And at my real estate conference that's coming up in a few months, my number one goal is to have fun. And my number two goal is to have fun. I choose to believe this 100%. Past, present, and future. All versions of me. I take ownership of anything contradictory to this. And I integrate it now. Breathe. Take a breath.
I feel lighter.
Look at that. Look at that smile.
Yeah.
There we go. So, how are you feeling about your upcoming conference?
It feels a little lighter. That's for sure. It does. Yeah. I'm kind of looking forward to it. And just kind of be there and be present and be myself. That's what I'm going to go for and do.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Are you good, Dan?
I am good. Thank you.
All right. Well, it's great to connect with you today.
Likewise. Thank you.
And everyone else, I'll see you on next week's episode.